What's up guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be answering some questions about Lee Sin and League in general that people ask me on Twitter. If you haven't already followed me there, be sure to do that. My Twitter link is down in the description. But anyways, let's hop into the first question. Matthew Jones asked, Lee Sin currently has the second lowest win rate this patch. What would you do to buff him for solo queue but prevent him from destroying competitive? Now this is a great question because clearly Riot hasn't yet figured it out, considering Lee Sin is still a viable pro pick, yet struggles in solo queue. But to me, what it comes down to is that Lee Sin has the kit to dominate laning phase and stomp the games much quicker than any other jungler, and in professional play this is really effective, whereas in solo queue not as much because people aren't on comms, they're not pros, they don't quite understand how to use advantages. So I think the only solution that really sticks out to me is to nerf his early game like they've already been doing, but give him a better late game. To me it would be as simple as nerfing his base damage and increasing his scaling, but I know it's probably not that simple, so I'm not going to pretend to really have the answer to this question. But something I've always thought about to help him in the late game is to make his energy cost scale with CDR. So like I think part of the problem in the late game is that you get all this cooldown reduction, but your energy costs remain the same. So you end up having all of this unused CDR, I guess you could say, because you're just not able to spam your abilities with 40% CDR unless if you have blue buff, but Lee Sin doesn't take blue beyond the second or third blue that spawns, so his late game always ends up shitty. So I guess nerf base damage, increase scaling, and also make CDR decrease his energy costs. I guess that's what I would do. Building off of the last question, May Borowski asked, what are your thoughts on Lee Sin in this meta? Well, I think Lee Sin, no matter how badly they decide to nerf him, will always have a place in the meta in some way. I think right now, he's more of a situational pick. He doesn't really blend well with every team composition, and he doesn't do well against certain junglers like Graves, Warwick, and some of the other tanky junglers who just outclass you in every department once you leave the early game. So to me, Lee Sin is a bit underwhelming. Definitely not the best pick, but situationally, he can actually be really strong. Situations where you have a really dominant mid game, a lot of pick potential, a very mobile mid laner, and support is usually pretty good for Lee. Like, you don't want to gangplank on your team if you're Lee because you'll have no synergy on ganks. He needs 30 plus minutes to scale up. And I mean, there's a lot of examples, but I think that's the best example to give. Alright, I want to answer a lot more questions, so I'm going to speed this up a bit so I don't drag on too long. The next question was asked by 3 different people, and the question is, why Lee Sin? Why do you like Lee Sin? And it's pretty simple. I enjoy champions with a lot of versatility, a high skill cap, and I find them fun to play. Lee Sin has all of that, so yeah, I just really enjoy his kit. Now, I do want to take a minute to shout out the website Opinion Outpost. If you guys want RP but you don't have money to spend, you can go to this website, fill out surveys, and get rewarded with RP cards. It's such a simple concept and doesn't take that much time, so the link for this website is down in the description, so if you're interested in free RP, definitely go check that out. This video is sponsored by Opinion Outpost. Next we have, if Lee Sin didn't exist, what jungle champion would you main? This is a tough one. I guess you know how much I love Trundle. I think I'd probably be a Trundle one trick, but then again, Elise is pretty freaking good. But if I was forced to choose, yeah, I'd probably change my YouTube name to Solo Trundle Only and be a Trundle one trick. What was the main thing you changed to get better at the game? There's a lot that I changed. Let me preface my answer with that. There's no single thing that you can change to all of a sudden be an amazing player, but for me, the biggest difference from like silver and gold to when I got to diamond was all about my attitude. I just stopped blaming shit on my team 24/7, and I stopped being a negative Nancy during my games. In your opinion, which jungler is the strongest right now and why? In my opinion, Warwick is far and away the most broken jungler in the game right now. Graves is a close second, I guess, but Warwick is just, I can't deal with that champion. He clears faster than Lee, he wins 1v1s against anyone, and he becomes unkillable in the late game, all the while having an overloaded kit of crowd control. So Warwick 100%. As a hard-stuck silver Lee Sin main with over 250 games, should I be playing other champions to climb, as many people have told me to? Yes, absolutely, and it's not because you're silver, and it's not because you're playing Lee Sin. If you're hard-stuck, I don't care if you're an Annie main, it's time to change things up and try new things. So starting with playing other champions, yeah, definitely try other champions. How did you find your main, and why do you stick to that champion for so long? So I became a Lee Sin main in Season 5 after I was already in Diamond 5, and the reason why I became a Lee Sin player is actually because I would watch old-time Lee Sin one-tricks who made sick montages like Drux, Sick Rashot, Bubba Kush, Gripex, Soft Drink, Selly Bear, just to name a few, and I was obsessed with how awesome Lee Sin montages looked, and I've always loved montages, and I decided, fuck it, I want to do that. I'm going to devote my time to Lee Sin, and I'm going to make sick-ass montages, and it worked. Next, we have, how long did it take for you to learn and execute perfectly each Lee combo? Well, I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but to the point I'm at today, I've probably played around 2,000 Lee Sin games, and it wasn't until about 6 months after starting to play him that I felt pretty confident in my ability to make sick plays. How do you not get bored of League? That's a false question. I actually do get bored of League all the time. But since I'm doing YouTube as my job currently, I force myself to play. Sometimes I start loving the game again, and other times I hate it. But at the end of the day, video games are video games, and to me, it'll always be somewhat enjoyable. What do you feel about the jungler's impact now, and how hard can a jungler carry on a scale of 1 to 10? I think compared to previous seasons, the jungler's impact has definitely seen a decrease, but just by the nature of the role, being able to impact every lane, you're always going to be at least around a 5 out of 10 in my opinion, so at the very worst a 5 out of 10. And right now I think jungle sits around a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's definitely a lot harder to solo carry as jungle right now, but still a solid role. Favorite champion to watch montages on apart from Lee Sin, and why? I love to watch AD carry montages, so like Vayne, Lucian, Ezreal, any of those champions is extremely enjoyable to watch. Like, I just love watching someone kite well. It's satisfying. What's your most memorable Lee Sin play? It's probably a tie between my Baron steal, which I believe was just my most epic play, and the other play that comes to mind is the pentakill I had from a long-ass time ago. The play alone wasn't that insane, but it was one of my first pentas on Lee, and it was like the first video I produced that got a lot of attention for me being good at Lee. It was just before the scripting video went viral pretty much. From 1 to 10, how toxic are you? I used to be a solid 8, then I reformed and became way better, and ever since I've been on YouTube, I think I've sat around a 2 or a 3 maybe. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely not toxic compared to 95% of League players. What is your motivation to keep playing League as your main game? Just like my answer from before, it's because it's my job. People won't watch other games, or at least not enough people for me to actually sustain a living, so for me the biggest motivation is because it's my livelihood right now. Alright, the next question was asked by Mike O, and he wanted to know, as a jungler, how do you determine your win condition and how do you execute it? Your win condition comes down to who's on your team, who's doing well, what is your team comp good at, and also what kind of advantages do you already have in the game. You should think about your win condition every 5 minutes or so in the game, starting around 15 minutes in, and if you're not sure how to identify a win condition, just ask yourself, okay, well, who's doing well right now, who's ahead? Then ask yourself, will we win a 5v5? Already you've begun to identify your win conditions just by asking yourself those two questions. For example, if the answer to your first question is, well, we have a Fed LeBlanc, so she's ahead, but I don't think we win a 5v5 because they have like 3 AoE stuns and we have none. That should tell you to focus on getting picks because your win condition is LeBlanc and it's not 5v5s. Then you can ask yourself, what advantages do you have in the game? Do you have map control? Do you have a snowballing bot lane? Like, just think about the pace of the game and whether or not you need to speed it up or slow it down. The win condition might change every game, so don't think it's gonna be one thing the whole time. It's not. But also, I can't really answer how to execute it because the win condition can be so many different things, so it just depends. During your Road to Diamond climb, what division did you think was the most difficult to play? It's almost always a Division 1 or a Division 5, so like right around the beginning and end of every tier. Specifically, my Road to Diamond series, I felt the most traction at like Gold 1, but typically Plat 2 and Plat 1 are the hardest divisions when getting to Diamond. Hey Heizman, do you have any tips for transferring a lead in the early game to the late game? Yes, it's map control, getting objectives, ward coverage, just all around owning the map. This is how you can start to secure picks and secure barons, and that's how you end up pushing your lead into the late game. Hey man, first question, how old are you? And second, what is the best jungle path for Lee Sin? Well, I'm 22 years old, I turn 23 pretty soon here, and the best path for Lee Sin in my opinion is just the standard bottom buff, wolves, top buff, just so you can get an early level 3 and try and make a play on the enemy jungler or in one of the solo lanes. Alright, the last question I'm going to answer today is, how can I get out of silver playing Lee Sin? People just tell me to stop playing him, but I don't want to. I'm fairly decent at him. Do you have any suggestions? See, when you're stuck in silver, it doesn't really come down to how good you are at a specific champion. It just comes down to not understanding the game that well yet. You can keep playing Lee Sin if you want, but you really got to understand other champions as well. If you don't know what a champion does, it will really hurt your ability to make decisions as the jungler. So in silver elo, just obtain more knowledge, learn more about the game. It's really that simple. People who know more climb at that elo. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to follow me on Twitter at HeizmanLOL if you haven't already. Also, if you want to earn free RP, don't forget Opinion Outpost is a place where you can go answer survey questions and get RP. But that's where I'm going to end today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.
So take me away and take me higher, take me far, 'cause paradise is a place that's far from home. Step, step,